What they are doing is not to provide safety in America. They're ripping families apart. They're sowing chaos on our streets. And in this case, quite literally killing people.
The president stands with ICE. I stand with ICE. We stand with all of our law enforcement officers.
The Trump administration has been surging ICE officers and agents to Minneapolis, partly sparked by a suspected sort of large-scale fraud of social services, which was being investigated years and years ago, but was brought back to light and put before President Trump. And last week, one of those ICE officers shot and killed Renee Good, a woman who was protesting ICE activities, apparently by sort of trailing ICE agents as they did their raids.
According to her family, Renee Good was a loving mother. She was also a poet, and she was at Minneapolis, she having recently moved there, and there apparently to support her neighbors as they faced ICE raids. Now, depending who you listen to, there are different accounts of how the day played out. The Trump administration has called her a domestic terrorist.
You're trying to actually marshal the far left lunatic fringe to engage in doxing, to try to make it impossible for them to enforce the law, and in some cases actually to engage in acts of domestic terrorism against our law enforcement officers.
All of this has received a predictably angry response from those around her and the Democrats who say that the Republicans are distorting what happened that day.
This was an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying.
What we're seeing is the consequences of governance designed to generate fear, headlines, and conflict. It's governing by reality TV.
The shooting of Renee Good has triggered protests across America that go beyond her home state. A lot of people feel that this was not justified, and there's also wider unhappiness with ICE raids.
When I got there, it was late on the night that she was killed, and I went to the street where she was shot dead in her car. I mean, the crime scene had been removed. Protesters had been throwing snowballs at some of the ICE agents. The ICE agents had got out of there. The police had kind of gradually closed down the crime scene. Protesters were blockading the street at either end. There were also protests outside the ICE, the building, the federal building near the airport, which has become a sort of HQ for ICE operations. Protesters meeting a line of ICE agents in the street. One protester said to me that he was pleased by this because if they were on the street blocking the protesters, they couldn't be making raids. Apart from protesting, of course, the death of Renee Good, a lot of the impetus for the protests in Minneapolis has been to try as much as possible to distract and disrupt ICE agents.
In terms of the fallout from the shooting of Renee Good, we're still seeing ripples being sent across America. In Congress, there's lots of talk about whether there could be limits on how ICE do their raids in the future. You have some Democrats also calling for the impeachment of the head of Homeland Security. That seems quite unlikely at the moment, but certainly there's an effort to say Donald Trump is acting in a way that cannot continue, particularly coming from the left.
The tricky thing is, there doesn't seem to be a resolution in sight. The Trump administration is not backing down. Instead, it seems to be sending more ICE agents to Minneapolis.
You have a situation whereby ICE raids have become a staple of second-term Trump. Often they will share footage or talk about their great successes, and cracking down on immigration, both in terms of border crossings and finding people in the US who aren't legally meant to be here, don't have the legal right, has been something that Trump, as well as the key domestic achievements to date.
The striking thing about Minneapolis, it's a very liberal city. They sense that they're being targeted by the Trump administration as a useful foil for President Trump. There's a feeling in Minneapolis that they are being used as a sort of a test case for the rest of the country. There have been big deployments in other cities, but this is the largest there's ever been. But it just feels like a place that was very, very politically organized, politically active, and was facing this huge force of officers and was very unhappy about it.